Good morning and welcome to Little by Little, a short time in God's Word. Today, May 28th, and we're continuing in the Proverbs. We're picking it up in chapter 5, and there's some important things that come across in this Proverbs. And here in chapter 5 is warning about what? About adultery. My son, be attentive to my wisdom, incline your ear to my understanding, that you may keep discretion and your lips may guard knowledge. For the lips of a forbidden woman drip honey, and her speech is smoother than oil. But in the end she is bitter as wormwood, sharp as a two-edged sword. Her feet go down to death, her steps follow the path to Sheol. She does not ponder the path of life. Her ways wander, and she does not know it. So sons, listen to me. Do not depart from the words of my mouth. Keep your way far from her. Do not go near the door of her house, lest you give honor to others in your years to the merciless. And he goes on. This is the beginning, right? There's more in this, and we'll read some more in a minute. But again, to read and understand this in its full intention and desire is to understand God's heart and God's plan for life, right? You could read this, and if you don't care for God, if you don't have a heart for God's word and for what God says, then you're just like, whatever. But if you understand God's created us male and female and in his image, and he brings man together and woman together to be one flesh, and then this warning becomes like, oh, you mean people step outside of that? Yeah. And so what he's doing is painting this picture of, it's not going to be presented to you as this horrible thing that you're just going to do. No. And I heard this on a podcast recently about how people, leaders and things fall. It's not usually one giant step. There's, say, 20 steps, and you get to that 19th step, it's just one more step. Just fall into bed with someone that's not your wife, or fall into bed with someone that's not your husband, right? Like those, they don't just happen, but there's little steps along the way. And it's going to be enticing. It's going to be smooth. It's going to drip honey. It's going to be attractive. It's going to be heartwarming. My wife doesn't understand. My husband doesn't treat me this way. And it's going to continue to move the needle. And the warning that he brings here, and you think how old this book is, how old the Proverbs are, right? And how relevant it still is today. It's remarkable. Truly God's word. And so, verse 15, see, and this is what I love about the Bible too, is because, and Paul does this really well in his letters. Here's what you need to believe. Here's what you need to put off. Here's what you need to put on, right? Because if we just are simply about the don'ts, and we've often majored in the don'ts, there's a void that's left, because you're like, okay, I can't do this. And you feel like you're just going to be in this zone of, and it turns into very quickly legalism, because there isn't the instruction to the do, right? And so here's the go for it. Verse 15, chapter 5. Drink water from your own cistern, flowing water from your own well. Should your springs be scattered abroad, streams of water in the street? Let them be for yourself alone and not for strangers with you. Let your fountain be blessed, and rejoice in the wife of your youth, a lovely deer, a graceful doe. Let her breast fill you at all times with delight. Be intoxicated always in her love. Why should you be intoxicated, my son, with a forbidden woman, and embrace the bosom of an adulteress? For a man's ways are before the eyes of the Lord, and he ponders all his paths. The iniquities of the wicked ensnare him. He is held fast in the cords of his sin. He dies for lack of discipline, and because of his great folly, he is led astray. He's going to continue to talk about that in chapter 7. One who commits adultery lacks sense, and into chapter 7, or in chapter 6 and into chapter 7 as well. And to a certain degree, I think we get that. And so maybe you're not married and you're thinking, yeah, well, great. Well, that doesn't apply to me. No, but the principles still apply about keeping yourself pure and prepared, holy unto God. And if you're married, then yeah, the responsibility is on you to nurture that relationship, to foster that intimacy, as we would say, and to not go down the paths of destruction. And yet far too often we hear stories, and it's sad. And so you have to wonder, like, why all this warning so long ago? Because human hearts have been the same. Wicked, inclined to evil. And so we need to turn to the Lord, and we need to ask God for help to walk rightly. And the way we do that is we turn from things that are not okay. We turn to the Lord, and we do the things that are what? Righteous. Do the things that are holy. And we ponder the Lord, and we don't play around. Till next time, keep growing, little by little.